Another topic that's addressed in the introduction has to do with when does adolescence begin and end. There are chronological designated ages. Some people would say 10, some people would say 11, and almost everybody says adolescent ends at 21 when you become a legal adult. That's sort of the chronological definition. They're sort of, arbitrarily picking some ages. We can look at biological definitions, the onset of puberty, and then, of course, the end of that would be when we have reproductive viability. And so here are a couple of individuals who have gone through that pubertal process and turned out to be quite nice looking. And of course, you can tell from this that your professor is a little bit of a Harry Potter fan. The legal definition of adolescence has to do with the attainment of juvenile status. It varies by state, that state laws differ from one to the next, but typically it's around 8 to 9 years of age, because that's the time when a child should know right from wrong. We assume that 8 or 9-year-olds know what's right and what's wrong. And so at that point, if they do something that's wrong, they come under the jurisdiction of the juvenile justice system. But the juvenile justice system was invented in 1901 for the purpose of recognizing that kids make stupid mistakes and we shouldn't punish them for their whole life for having made a stupid mistake. And so those individuals between the ages of 8 and 18, we treat them differently than we might somebody who's over the age of 18 and shouldn't be doing stupid things because they've attained their majority status. And so juveniles are dealt with through the juvenile justice system, where adults are dealt with through the criminal justice system. That's a very different thing. Educationally, and this for us is probably the most important definition. When does adolescence begin? When people enter into middle school? When does it end? When they complete their formal schooling, as this young lady has done, as she's graduating from the University of Louisiana wearing the vermilion robes and looking oh so happy. Someday that might be you. When does adolescence begin and end interpersonally? Well, we're going to look at individuals who are shifting an emphasis from having family relationships, parental relationships with their parents, to beginning to be emphasizing their peer relationships and to become more involved in peer relationships, and eventually towards those more intimate peer relationships or love relationships towards the end of adolescence. Cognitively, we're going to look at the beginning or the emergence of logical reasoning abilities, and presumably it would end when we consolidate those logical reasoning abilities. However, there are a number of people who never quite pull that stunt off, so they may never actually exit adolescence if that's the way we define it. I'm just saying. When does adolescence begin socially? Well, there might be an initiation of training for some sort of adult role, adult work roles, family roles, societal roles, that we learn how to do things. And so we're beginning to get trained into those roles. As we finish that training, we're going to attain adult status and get all of the privileges that are granted to adults. Culturally, there may be a training program that is implemented in our culture. We send children to school, and many children begin school at a very young age. These children you see in front of you are actually at Truman Elementary, and they're about 4 years old, starting their training for adulthood. On the right-hand side, of course, is a young couple who has completed a ceremonial rite of passage, that of marriage. So they've gotten married, and they're now very clearly adults. Now, the last little thing that I want to talk about has to do with the nature of science and your personal experience. And I entitled this section, You Two Are Weird. Your personal experience may not always be typical. You may have had a slightly different kind of experience. And here's some different kinds of experiences that you might see young people having. And yours might be like one and not like the others. And that's okay. What we need to understand is that what science seeks to do is to understand the typical or common or normative response. And that may not always be the one that you experienced. And when you find that, that you didn't conform to the normal pattern of development. That doesn't mean that the normal pattern of development is wrong. It just means that you're a little weird. And it's okay to be a little weird. Everybody's a little weird. Some people are weirder than others, but all of us are a little bit weird. The last thing I want to say before we finish up this lecture is that the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be expectations. And I want you to understand that human beings will rise or fall to the level of expectations that we have for them. Parents who expect problems from their teens will get those. Teachers who expect poor learning get poor learning. Teachers who expect good learning get good learning. And so Rosenthal and Jacobson studied teachers expecting good learning. And so that's the next thing that you're going to be doing in this introductory set of lessons. So this ends the first part. I hope you enjoy the course, and I hope that you have a wonderful time learning online this semester. Thank you.